Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Tally. This is episode 54, and I'm your host, Brian Tally. The mission and the goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and on Spotify. The online information and handles are all located on the scrolling ticker at the bottom portion of your screen. Be sure to like and share the program as well. You can also support the program by going to Anchor FM or Spotify and clicking the support button. Do you own a business? Do you want exposure? Do you want to be heard? Advertise your business right here on this podcast. Program sponsorships include a custom written script to advertise your business to its fullest potential to get the results you're looking for. Email me directly at thetallybill@gmail.com and let's set up an impactful advertising plan to help you and your business get the results you're looking for. Again, email me directly at thetallybill@gmail.com. That's thetallybill@gmail.com. Folks, we have a very special guest joining us on today's program. A devil doc, a combat veteran, and extremely talented singer-songwriter who has dedicated his life to saving lives through his lyrical magic that speaks directly to those that may be experiencing life challenges and obstacles. We will talk about life, rock and roll, and the wounds of war. Shannon is a fighter, a warrior, and a shining example to so many. Shannon Book was born and raised in the small town of Hazel Green, Kentucky. He grew up with a great appreciation of music and has expressed that appreciation both vocally and by playing various musical instruments throughout his life. Shannon retired as a petty officer first class with 17 years of honorable service. He has turned his PTSD and TBI into reflection. Shannon has been working on a collection of original songs reflecting on his time in the military, his injuries, and living with the aftermath of war to help heal those that have shared in some of his experiences to make a difference in our world. All in all, his goal is to save lives through his music as well as to help educate a vulnerable and at-risk military and veteran community. And with that, we are extremely honored to be joined by Shannon Book. How are you?
Brother, if I were any better, it'd probably be illegal.
Well, unless you're in Colorado, right?
I mean, probably even in Colorado, it's probably illegal.
Well,
I don't do that stuff anymore, but there's, it is what it is.
Totally get it, man. And that was just strictly being facetious here as a little icebreaker.
Totally. I'm doing here. Great. God bless you, brother.
Hey, God bless you, man. Now, I've been a fan of your music for quite some time. So excuse me if I'm a little starstruck here. You are the man, and your work is changing lives, and not only changing lives, but it's saving lives because you are able to speak directly to a community, and not just a community, but an honorable community. An at-risk population, a vulnerable population. I say that a lot on this program because it's true. Yep. And the only way that we're going to break this stigma and we're going to help save lives is to talk about it. And what better way to connect with people through music, where people can sit down and listen at their own pace and during their own time, and sit down and close their eyes and literally listen to the words and the beat of the drum and the guitar and the words you lay down, people identify with, and they say, holy cow, this guy is speaking directly to me. And I'm getting goosebumps as I say this now. So I know what you're doing out there is the right thing. You are definitely doing what God has intended you to do and has got you on that path. We've got a lot to talk about here. So let's get started, man. You're from
Well, I
Kentucky.
just got to tell you right now. I'm first of all, like I don't know that I've ever had that sort of introduction ever. So I want to say thank you for blowing my heart away. And I may or may you got chills. I may or may not got a little emotional.
It's the truth, I'm just speaking the truth. Like I said, I've known you for a long time, and that's what I feel. And
Well, thank you, man.
we need more men out there like you, that are out there setting that example, that shining example.
I am humbled by your kind words, sir.
Hey, man, the pleasure is all mine. Now, you grew up in Kentucky. What was life like growing up there?
Well, I tell people in Texas it's kind of like preschool for Texas, so it wasn't much different than it is here. I grew up on the side of a ridge, in a 64-foot single wide trailer, in southeastern Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Tobacco, was our number one cash crop. Cattle, dairy, like I grew up in the farm world, farm and coal. That's what was around me most of my life. As a young child, my grandfather John Book owned one of the department stores in the small town, and held a pretty reputable name against like Kmart. And Walmart happened, and then of course when that happened, the family was broke, and we, at that point, it was rough. It was kind of rough, We're middle of Kentucky. If you've heard some sort of weird joke about Kentucky, I promise you I know somebody that reminds me of that.
Just moonshine and that front porch swing, and
Grandma sitting on the porch swinging in her porch swing, spitting her tobacco into a coffee can.
Man, I love that America.
Me too.
I really do.
Me too, man.
I've driven through Kentucky. I was born in Ohio, so when I was stationed in North Carolina, I'd go through Kentucky, or on my way home to Colorado, whatever. I'd go through Kentucky and Tennessee, and that really is some beautiful country out there.
It is.
The people, the people of Kentucky are amazing as well. I mean, those people have shown great strength and resilience here lately with all the storms that they've had, and they've been rebuilding that state and communities. And there's been a lot of people that have come together, and that's not an easy thing to do. And those people have done it very, very well, and quite honorably.
Well, just within the last 2 years, you had a tornado, you had an F4 tornado rip off the corner of it. And then, this last year, the other corner got flooded. So like there was a lot of stuff and a lot of devastation that happened, in that flood area. That was right in my home. That was my backyard, so it's, but they are resilient. The people of Kentucky are resilient. They've been resourceful. Like,
right.
They just have to be. They don't have a choice.
Well, yeah, they're survivors.
Right.
Now, you would end up joining the Navy. Would you join out of high school?
So it's funny that you asked that, Brian. Those stories where like, man, I was gonna join blah, 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 blah. And you just kind of like, bro, you don't have to go there. Seriously. Like, we don't need to talk about this.
I was going to be a Marine, but
I was going to be a Marine, but my feet.
I was going to be a SEAL. And
then I got crotch rod or something or whatever. Anyway. So I actually wanted to be a Marine. I went into the Marine Corps recruiting office. True story. Went in the Marine Corps recruiting office, did the freaking pre-ASVAB, did the pre-PFT, aced it with flying colors. And this freaking old gunnery sergeant was sitting in his office, and he finished his cup of coffee. He's doing all the monitor work, and then he puts a big old fat lipper of Copenhagen in, and he starts spitting in his coffee cup. So what do you want to be, boy? I want to be a doctor. He's like, what? Like, I want to be a doctor. Like, I just, like 2 years prior to that, I'd cut my toes off in a lawnmower accident. And, you know, and my surgeon, like this is, you can't make this stuff up, man. So my surgeon was a little German guy, and he was just the coolest thing on the planet. And I learned so much from him being in a hospital for 2 weeks. I decided right then and there that I wanted to be a trauma surgeon. True story. And so I went in the Marine Corps recruiting office, and I was like, I want to be a doctor. He picks up his cup again and sets it back down. Come on, boy. He walks me across the hall to this freaking second-class boiler tech sitting in the freaking office, and he looks at him and calls him Boats. He goes, hey, Boats, this young man right here wants to be a Fleet Marine Force corpsman. Make it happen. And that was it.
Hey, Boats.
He called a boiler tech Boats. He's like, I didn't, no F's given. He's like, I didn't care. I don't care what your rate is. You're a bosun mate to me. You know.
I can totally relate to your recruiter, because my recruiter at the time, Gunny McGlasson, this guy is a legendary Marine Corps recruiter. Wow. Levi Garrett. I'm talking a cheek full of Levi Garrett, and he did the same thing. And spitting in his coffee cup, dumping it out, getting. I'm talking.
Pour another black cup of coffee.
Yep. Never washed the mug, and you can always find those trash cans turned into spittoons. And I don't know if you ever had Levi Garrett, but it produces a ton of saliva, not just your Copenhagen. You know, your your regular spitters. I'm talking gallons.
Oh yeah,
here and so I can totally see that. Oh yeah, I can see it happening. So you go to boot camp, and your mission is to become an FMF Devil Doc Fleet Marine Force. Walk me through that process.
Well, my mission was to become a doctor. Just like my Navy recruiter told me, you can be a doctor if you join the Navy. You know, so my goal was to do whatever it took to get to medical school, which was a real, very, very long trek. But boot camp, I went to boot camp in San Diego. I showed up in San Diego on the 12th of July, 12th of July in 1994. P weeks, you know, the usual for everybody. You're going to get in your freaking pajamas and you're going to walk around base in your PJs for a freaking couple of weeks until you get your head shaved and get freaking medically cleared. And then all of a sudden, blah, 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 we're going to get shots and all this other garbage. Then you're going to learn how to march and do all this other crap. So, you know, boot camp was pretty cool. It was a culture shock, but it wasn't like anything I never experienced before. I played football, so it wasn't like, you know, we're all hanging out in the locker room, smacking each other on the butt or whatever. But, you know, it's typical locker room kind of stuff. But we lived with each other. We breathed each other's air. We ate next to each other. And one of the funniest things I think I remember the most about freaking boot camp is that we had a class drop into our platoon, and this guy was a total troublemaker, and he went AWOL in the middle of my watch. He went AWOL, and I didn't realize it. Like, you know, we didn't count beds and all that stuff. Well, I get this freaking on the front hatch of the freaking berthing, and I went out to answer, you know, who goes there, blah, 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 blah. Open the door, recruit. There's two hats standing outside with knucklehead out front of our freaking hatch. And I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh, good. Like, oh no, wait, this is, you know, like I'm thinking freaking Full Metal Jacket and stuff. I'm like, oh, I gotta, Senior recruit book reporting is ordered, sir, blah, 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 and I ran back to the freaking company commander's office and knocked on the, sir, we got 2 Marines in the blah, blah, what the hell, blah, 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 blah. So then I was relieved, but that was the first time I ever experienced a Marine in a smoky. And I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do with my hands, and it was pretty intense, man. So that's probably the best part of boot camp for me. Like the rest of it was just kind of like it was like a summer camp.
So you would graduate and find your place in the fleet. What was your first duty station?
Oh, Club Med, San Diego. I was stationed at Naval Medical Center, San Diego for a whole year. And I probably got in more trouble in that freaking command than I ever would have gotten in my entire life. Just because I was like, this is in like 94, 95.
Mm-hmm.
And MTV Grind was out on freaking Mission Beach and there was all kinds of ridiculous stuff going on. So if you can imagine a 19-year-old cut loose in the middle of San Diego during like MTV's big, huge MTV Grind, like all these crazy people, chillers and like seeing big bands before they were big bands in like Red Square and freaking Tijuana and all kinds of crazy it was bad. It was bad. That was my first duty station. So I worked in general surgery at Naval Medical Center, San Diego. That's what my first duty station was.
Was that Balboa?
Yes.
Yeah, Balboa. Yeah.
Balboa Medical Center.
Yep. Still there to this day.
Right across from the biggest transient freaking park on the planet, Balboa Park.
Yeah. And I grew up in San Diego there, so I know I'm very familiar with Balboa, and
you got to be very cautious walking through that park at night, boy.
Yeah, that can get a little dangerous at times. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of activity out there that that is
it's a beautiful park, though. I mean, it really is.
During the day it's great. At night, the creatures do come out.
Yeah, and they're not four-legged there too.
Yeah. Indeed, man. So you would end up in the Fleet Marine Force and see your way out of this hospital type setting.
Yes.
Describe when you got attached to a Marine Corps unit and literally earned the title Devil Doc.
Wow. There's a story that comes to mind when you ask that question. So my first field op was with Tank Scouts. I was with 1st Tank Battalion, and I pretty much got attached to the scout platoon. But my first evolution, I'm a brand new E3 out in the fleet, and I'm like, dude, what's up? I'm a surfer dude now. Like, I left Kentucky to become a surfer. What's up, man? What's up, dude? I used to talk like this right here, and then all of a sudden I get out there with all them surfers, and I'm like, what's up, man? What's up, dude? But now I'm in 29 Palms.
Ooh, nice.
And the Morongo Basin. And so I'm in 29 Palms, and my first op is out. We're just going to go out and do a demo range. We're going to shoot stuff, blow things up, check out explosives, shape charges, trench charges, all kinds of crazy stuff. And like, I'm excited. I'm like, yeah, let's go do this. Let's go play with C4 and TNT and all this other stuff. So I get over to the tank ramp, and I'm like, hey, so where do I put my gear? Like, I'm still a surfer mentality. I'm like, hey, yo, where do I put my stuff at, bro? Like, I will never forget it. Sergeant Demencow. He's like, hey, Doc, you just put your stuff right over here. Come on over here for a second. And he looked at me and he closed his door. He goes, hey, just so you know, my first name is Sergeant, not dude or bro. My first name is Sergeant. And I was like, sorry, Sergeant. Like it was like I'm not gonna like there's some details that I'm gonna omit just because, you know, Demencow may or may not watch this later on and he may or may not remember that moment. But you know, like that was my education to the United States Marine Corps right then and there. And that operation, like once I realized that I was no longer in San Diego, like I felt like I was right at home. Like it was, and that's where I started earning my title doc right there.
Yeah, and folks, you know, we have a lot of military and veteran and first responder listeners, but let me explain to the civilians out there what a devil doc is. Well, it's a naval corpsman that are essentially attached to the Fleet Marine Force, and they're basically Marines. I mean, they're essentially Marines.
Marine doctors.
Yeah. And these docs will go to hell and back to save the lives of their Marines. And these devil docs are not only appreciated by all Marines, but they have been fully accepted as one of their own, which is a rarity, especially, you know, Marines don't really bring a lot of people in. But that devil doc is part of the team and is part of the mission when they are attached to the Fleet Marine Force, especially when the Marines go out late at night and they need that bag, that IV bag before PT. They always know where the doc is and where his footlocker of IVs is because, hey, I'll admit, I was one of those Marines, especially in Korea and you know, Thailand and Okinawa and all that other area. Like, hey, doc, dude, you got a drip, man. We got PT in an hour, man, and I'm not doing well. And all of a sudden, 45 minutes later, like, hey, man, we're ready to rock.
Listen, there's nothing like an IV chain at 2:00 in the morning. Nothing.
Hey, man, every Marine's been there,
and
yeah, and if they haven't, they're lying to you.
Facts.
So you would go on and you would serve 17 years in the U.S. Navy. Do you have a moment that stands out to you that you would consider to be like one of your proudest moments?
Dude, there's so many. I can't man. Brian, it's such a hard question to answer. I'm getting ready to do a video. You just did an interview with Chris Martini, and so Chris is getting ready to do a video for me for the song called "Dear Mom." And like one of the things that comes to mind, and I don't know what my influence this young man is, but some of my proudest moments are still happening today. Like I've got a young man who was a brand new, and I mean brand new E3. Like he came into the Navy as an E3, went to school, got dropped at a freaking field med, and came straight to 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines. Now he's a master chief, deep sea dive med tech. And you know, and there are a lot of stories like him in my life, and so you know there are sailors that I like still call me. Like I'll call somebody like, hey man, thanks for setting me up for success, and I'm like, I don't know what I did, but I'm just glad you let me be a part of your life, you know. So there are so many moments. I'm getting a little emotional. There are so many moments in my career that I'm proud of. And not because of me, but because of what I've seen grow. The growth and Whew. Yeah, that's I don't know that I've ever been asked that question other than the fact that, like, not in an interview like this, but yeah, man, like,
And
yeah,
you said, you can change, the course of somebody's life by, just talking to them, or they remember something you said,
right,
and that's important because that's counsel,
yeah,
and that's godly stuff,
right,
to sit
right,
and to speak some words, um, like I do with my children every day.
right,
I give them guidance and counsel.
correct,
And a lot of the times, if you touch somebody's life, they will always remember that counsel. Now, we're thrown a million things a day,
yeah,
but it's up to us to catch what we want and to keep it. And a lot of the times when people speak, especially to people where their opinion matters to them, they're going to hold on to a lot of that stuff. And you may not even know it. I may never know the amount of people that I have touched, but I do know I've touched some people because they tell me.
right.
And and sometimes I touch people that I would have never imagined, that I thought that were
The furthest
the
away from you, yeah,
well, not just far away, but like, man, this is a larger than life creature here.
right,
And he's admitted that, man, you really opened my eyes to this, or
right,
you really hit me, man, right in the heartstrings,
right.
and thank you. So it's things like that, it's moments like that that do bring
There's
about a
this
lot of clarity.
story. There's this story, and there's more than one. I couldn't even tell you, but there's one specifically that I'll never forget. Um, and I don't necessarily want to like name names or whatever, but and I'm pretty sure once I tell the story, like the individual hears it, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But young man comes back, wins a silver star, takes a shot in the face, takes a round to the face, comes out the back of his head, wakes up. You know what? He says, I was laying there. I got hit and I felt it and I went down. And he goes, you know what I did? He goes, I heard you yelling at me. I heard you yelling at me. Get the F up. It's not over yet. He goes, I heard you yelling at me. And I got up and I treated those two Marines.
Mm-hmm.
I got them on the bird, then I passed out. I, I don't I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about that. And this was a former student that I had at Field Med once I came back from Fallujah in 2004. And there's all kinds of backstory to that, but he's just one of, I can't even begin to tell you stories that I don't, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to be and do what I expected them to be and do.
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to live up to what was expected of us as
Mm-hmm.
corpsmen. You know,
Right.
we don't have the option. Like, we're the guy that gets to walk up to St. Peter and go, hey, no, you can't have him. Sometimes St. Peter goes, sorry, little boy, I'm gonna need you to sit down. And that's a reality. And sometimes he listens. So
You know, being in your line of work, when you were in the military, it's not for the faint of heart. You see a lot, you saw a lot, and you've been through a lot. I mean, let's face it, you are working on people that are having the worst day of their life, and you are there to literally guide them and hold their hands and keep them living and encourage them and inspire them when they've got a bullet in them that you are trying to get to the next level while you're treating them for shock,
and
while
sometimes
you're
lying to them.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I was saying, hey, man, you're going to be all right. Hang in there, when they may not be, but those are going to be the last words, perhaps that they're going to hear, and they're going to go that way to say, hey, you know what, my doc was there. He during this traumatic experience,
Right.
but those are wounds that you will now carry with you, and the trauma, that you've seen and had to witness has kind of molded you into the man you are today. With your post-traumatic stress, with your traumatic brain injuries. Now, I know you have a lot of life lessons, from the military. Again, that has molded you into the man you are. You are a singer songwriter, and may I add, a damn good one.
Thanks, brother.
And somebody that I listen to on my walks, quite often.
Thanks, man.
You have an art about what you do that is very unique. And what I mean about unique is that you speak directly to the hearts and minds of a lot of the people that have the same commonalities as you, that have been in those trenches and have seen and gone through the same life experiences that you have. Can you explain what inspired you to start writing songs and recreating a lot of these events that you went through in combat to help save others?
Man, that's funny that you asked that question. So it started, I guess, when I was younger because, music was probably pretty much my only outlet. Like I grew up, my grandfather, promised me a saxophone if I learned. I'd started band and I started playing saxophone in 5th grade. And then my grandfather later on down the road offered to buy me my very own saxophone if I learned the Boots Randolph Greatest Hits cassette. Like, and that's Boots Randolph. Like, if you don't know who Boots Randolph is, I challenge you to go check out Boots Randolph. Like, one of the best freaking sax players ever. Like, Kenny G ain't got nothing on Boots Randolph. Anyway, so that's where it started for me. And, I was picked on as a kid most of my life. I was a scrawny little kid, and I didn't really have any. I don't necessarily think I was very tough at all, to be honest with you, but I had to learn to be tough. I got beat up a lot on a school bus. I got punished. When I say I got punished, like I can tell you what the weight of a freaking social studies book is by the back of my neck, and it just, I needed something to take me away from all of that pain. And music just happened to do that. So I would listen to all the music on the radio and I would sing along. My dad used to tell me, hey, shut up, boy, I can't hear the radio. And I'd be back in the back of the car going, I didn't care. Like, I just wanted to sing along with the song or whatever. But fast forward to probably, 2002, 2003. Like, and I'd been playing guitar, for a while. I started playing guitar in high school. But I started writing music. I started writing music in like the 90s. Started playing little bars down in San Diego, Chillers and all those little places, coffee shops. And then I think I started seriously writing. I started seriously writing when I came back from Fallujah in 2004. And the first song that I wrote with a good friend of mine, Tiffany Conley, was I Need to Breathe. Mm-hmm. Because I couldn't catch my breath. I couldn't. Like, the world had slowed down and I didn't know what to do with all of it. And I was just like, I got to do something. She goes, how about we write a song? And I was like, okay. Sitting in a coffee shop in Chula Vista. And That's Where I Need to Breathe was born in like 5 minutes. So that's where it started. Like it really started. Like the stuff that you hear today started after Fallujah because it was basically a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
It was a necessity for me to get rid of all the things that I had swallowed over the years. Pain, sadness, pity, all that stuff. So I had to put it somewhere. It was either that or not survive it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. I started writing it down and I started putting music to it, and I started playing it on, bar stools and freaking coffee shops.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's turned into where it's at today. It turned into a band called Vetted for, several years. It turned into an Invictus show, the part of the closing ceremonies for Invictus in 2016. Like it's grown, but I'm better today than I ever have been by the grace of God. So it was God's way of giving me a way to heal. I just didn't realize it at the time. And in the last 2 years of sobriety, I think I've learned that because I didn't know how to be sober. I didn't know how to let all that stuff sink in. And so I think my musical journey today is more amazing than it's ever been. Even at my peak of what you would consider being complete celebrity. Like I'm happier today in music than I ever have been. So,
what I've gathered is that you needed your own therapy and you needed your own outlet. And the only thing that you could really think of is to help yourself through the music, which is in turn help others through your vulnerability, your hardship, your loss, your sacrifice, and everything else that comes along with traumatic type events. And when you speak, you're not just speaking to the military. You're not just speaking to veterans. I mean, first responders are in combat every single day, and they see things that are horrifying. Nurses, ER nurses, triage nurses, doctors. It could be a rape victim. It could be a car accident, folks.
Yep.
Life is hard, and we all experience traumatic events. And we're really just talking about the veteran and the military side.
Right.
But see, what a lot of folks don't understand out there, man, it is everybody, and nobody immune to this stuff.
Pain is pain, man, and pain hits everybody. And I don't care how awesome you are, how tough you think you are. Like you can only swallow so much. I've been through some stuff, and I've seen some stuff, and I've trained for some really bad things. And my body tells you now, I was in really good health and trained, and I was trained well, but now my body's broken. But I've been through some stuff, and it, to me personally, it's about everybody. We all deal with pain. I don't care how awesome you are. You can only swallow so much.
Yeah, pain changes people. Emotional pain, mental pain, physical pain. We all go through it. And if you haven't gone through it yet, folks, adversity will be there and it will knock. And we're never prepared for when those times and moments happen. But it will ultimately define who you are when you respond to that and you open that door. It's a door that nobody wants to open. But unfortunately, in this walk called life, it will happen. And that's why you need to surround yourself with like-minded people and build those relationships and know that you are not alone. And that is one of Shannon Book's greatest hits in my eyes. You are not alone. And I encourage you all to go Google Shannon Book and look at that song today. You are not alone. Now, your music it is healing. And it speaks directly to some of our nation's most vulnerable and at-risk populations in our country. Veteran suicide is an epidemic that can be fixed, and it can be turned around. How do we do that? How do we get there? And those are the $1 million questions. And I could tell you how we get there. We get there through awareness with songs like, again, Not Alone. It's authentic, it's raw, and it's powerful. The 22 is real, and unfortunately, I see it every day. Your music is a bridge, I'm going to call a bridge between life and death for many veterans.
That's a huge compliment, man. That's a huge compliment.
But it's true. A lot of musicians don't understand the people they reach. It's a bridge. You're singing the song, right? You're on stage and everything's great. And everyone's hooting and hollering. But then you've got those broken people over here that are tuning into that. And how can they connect with you? There's a bridge that's built. And that bridge is connected through Spotify. It's connected through Google Play. It's created through Apple Music. It's created through Facebook. It's created through YouTube. You build that bridge to that community that needs it the most.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever heard or ever received any phone calls from people that just wanted to reach out and say, thank you, your song saved my life?
More often than you realize. Probably even more often than I realize, to be honest with you. And I don't say that to subdue that statement. I say that because I have to keep myself busy. Otherwise I get into my own little junk and I sit in it and I live in it and I can't get out of it. It becomes like quicksand. It's hard to get out of. Mm-hmm. So I have to keep myself moving. And the more I do, I used to be really good with faces, maybe not names, but I'd remember you. Like Kim's Games. Like I was great at Kim's Games. I can remember things that in a box 3 to 5 hours later down the road. But the more I do, the harder it is to remember. But so that's what I mean by I probably more than I remember, but it happens. And I've walked off a stage after doing just Not Alone. And there will be 2 or 3 people standing in the wing, in the bridge wing, with tears in their eyes. I just want you to know that song means a great deal to me. And I want you to know that song, I've played that song over and over and over again. We just got back from Minnesota and I had a young lady that I had to play the song twice in Minnesota. Like they wanted me to play it twice. Like that's how much it meant to them. And so I played the song twice. I played it first thing in the morning for the opening of an event, and then I played it in our set. And it's there's something to be said when you hear people singing the words of a song that you've written. And I don't think I wrote that song. I think that God wrote that song through me. I was literally waking up at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning with a hangover. We'd just gotten back from a tour. Vetted had just gotten back into town into Houston, went from a tour, and we were like, let's go out and get partied up. And so we did. We went out and partied our asses off, and then we came back in. I was like, I'm sleeping in the studio tonight. I crashed in the studio. I was the only one there. It was like, I'm telling you, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I've got the words of the first verse of that song playing in my head. It woke me up, and I'm like, no, leave me alone. I'm going back to sleep. I've got a hangover. I don't want to be bothered. And it wouldn't stop. And it kept playing. So I started to type it in my phone, right? That wouldn't work. So I had to get up, get a notepad. That didn't work. I got a guitar and a notepad. And within 10, 15 minutes, that song was done. I don't think I honestly think that I feel that God wrote that song through me to teach me what I was missing. Because I needed to know that I wasn't alone, because I felt alone, even in all the freaking people, with all the people around me, like all the people that followed me, all the people that were chasing us, all the people that lived and watched and listened to us play music. Like I felt more alone. I was in a toxic relationship. I was in a toxic band. I was toxic myself. I wasn't healthy. I drank a ton. There was marijuana and cocaine involved. There's all kinds of garbage happening. I wasn't healthy. And I feel like God woke me up one morning, put his finger on my forehead and said, "Hey, here's a song for you. I need you to write this song." And he wrote it. And I released that song in 2018. And I pledged that day that every dime that is ever made from that song, minus what it takes for distributing, because that's expensive, every dime that is made for that song, from that song, will go to an organization of my choosing that actively and effectively fights suicide. And I make that promise today. So
now I've got a question for you, Shannon. Were you at your lowest point in your life when you wrote that song?
it's pretty close.
Because when I
Shortly,
listened
shortly
to
there
it,
to follow. Shortly there to follow, I ended up in a hospital, Mike DeBecky's, for about a week.
because when I listened to it, I it definitely makes it feel that way, because you can't really sing that and not having been through it. And you sing it so well. And folks, he has like an alternative type music genre, very easy to listen to, flows. I mean, this guy's got a voice like no other. And I'm telling you, if you haven't heard his songs, go to it today. His songs can be found on Spotify, YouTube Music, Pandora, Apple Music, iHeart, and much more. Search Shannon Book. His music will speak to you. Now, music has always been your outlet, and you are not alone. That there is the mission. Now, who do you look to for strength?
Well, that's easy. That's easy. God, Jesus Christ. Like, seriously,
Mm-hmm.
all joking aside, there's like I have all kinds of heroes, but my biggest hero doesn't wear a cape.
Mm-hmm.
He wore a gown.
Now, additionally, God is your Lord and Savior, and God is who you look to for strength. So, this
Amen.
next question is going to be around that. How does it feel to be living the life that you were intended to live through God and through his work? Has he opened doors and put things in your life that you can just stand back and say, I did it and I'm doing it. I've recovered. I'm getting 1% better every single day. I've really changed my life to the betterment of not only myself, but to the community and to the military veteran community. How does it feel to have crossed that finish line?
I don't know. I think the finish line constantly moves, Brian. And it's funny that you asked that question. It's a great question. That's an amazing question. I think that finish line constantly moves, and I think. Do you remember hiking, doing a forced march, and how like you're on like mile 22 of like 28 miles or whatever, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I just got to make it to that rock, or I've just got to make it to that crack in the road, or I just got to make it to that tree next. And so to me, that's how the finish line constantly moves. And I think
Mm-hmm.
as long as we're constantly moving forward, the finish line will never, like, it's always in front of us. And I think the very moment that the finish line is when Jesus Christ gives me a hug at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
when Jesus Christ finally hugs me at my last breath. And at that point, when he welcomes me into the golden streets of, heaven, then at that point, I think that's where the finish line really is. But how does it feel? You asked me how it feels. It feels amazing. And you asked me if there were like mile markers and things that are opened up to me. Today is my 730 day of sobriety. 730 days.
Congratulations, man. 730, man, that's quite the accomplishment.
I'm proud of you. I have never once from the beginning of this craved a drink.
Good.
I turned it over and I was like, God, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to end up killing myself again. And so that right there in itself is one of the biggest. I'm getting ready to do basically an MTV style video with Chris Martini, and I never thought I'd ever see that happen. Like,
Martini is a legend. I love that guy.
I love that dude, man. Like,
great man.
Him and his brother are both awesome guys. They're both huge in our veteran community. And to say that I'm doing a video with Chris Martini,
yeah,
like, so, and that's not because of my hard work. That's because of my hard prayer.
Yes,
God, please let your will be done in my life today. Let your will, let me be the man you need me to be. And I fall short of that every day, all day. But I work on it. I work on it every day, man.
You are getting 1% better every single day, and you are taking that walk. And that's what a lot of folks don't want to do because it's too hard. Well, I got news for you. Life is hard. And what I meant by that finish line is not necessarily crossing the finish line and then your life is grand and then there's no more movement. What I mean about this is exactly kind of like what I've gone through. I lived in a chair for over 4 years and self-isolated and nearly became a statistic myself.
Sure.
Now, over the last several years, I've gotten 1% better. And I put this on public display.
Sure.
And what I mean by I have crossed that finish line from where I was at, self-isolating, into now a world and a life that I can actually live in and appreciate. I graduated from this horrifying life, anxiety and depression riddled state of an absolute hell. And one day I began to get 1% better. And not long ago, about a year and a half ago, I had a time of reflection. And I said, I think I'm living again.
Right.
I think I'm actually living again for the first time in 5 years.
Yeah.
For 4.5 years. And that's what I mean about crossing that finish line, because see, now I'm living a life of gratitude.
Yep.
And I say this a lot: peace, love, hope, joy, the things that matter, the meaningful, taking time to smell the roses and go on those mindfulness walks and do what you are intended to do in that walk with life as God guiding you to be there. And again, another thing came to mind when you said that finish line is always moving, and I have the perfect example. Have you ever been to Colorado Springs?
I have.
Have you ever hiked the incline? Because they have a false summit. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're on that incline, it damn near killed me.
Oh yeah.
When you're like, there it is.
We're almost there.
The finish line,
almost
man.
there. Run,
We're
go.
almost there. Yeah. And I'm giving all I can. And you get to the top, and then you look up and you say,
there's another 600 feet. Then you're like, what?
There's a false summit.
Yep. So
you keep climbing. You keep climbing and you finish the race.
Right.
And then you get to the top and you run down.
Right.
So, so yes, you are right. It is always moving. And when that finish line is moving, we are evolving and
Right.
we are growing and we are
I
outside of
think
that comfort zone.
I can totally appreciate how you view it as well. I think what your view on it is that you're winning a race in life. There's a race that you decided that you're going to put yourself into, and that race was a big race, like the Marine Corps Marathon. I'm going to run the Marine Corps Marathon next year. I'm not gonna start training until October because that'll be great. You know, like
Yeah.
what were you thinking, stupid? Like, but anyway, but I get it. Like that's, there are races we run every day, and you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. And I think that those, each one of those finish lines get us a little bit closer. That's that 1% you're talking about. I'm a huge fan of that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, we could literally do this for hours. You
Yeah.
are a phenomenal guy. And, like you were saying with Chris Martini, he has served the veteran military and the first responder community truly honorably. And he is a tremendous champion to all of us. And he serves every single day alongside folks like me and you to raise that awareness that is needed to get people back on track and to have them start to live their life that they were intended to live. Because folks, we can all heal. We can all heal. It's a process. It hurts. It's hard, but it can be done. And when you have champions like Martini out there and folks like you and Blackbird, and I could just go on and on and on and on. The people that engage in these things are.
Don't forget to put yourself in that list.
I'm just a podcaster here who's trying to raise awareness and get folks like you out there.
No. You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. You are just as important as everybody you listed. That's what you do. You're like this light that like there's a parking lot. We're all in the parking lot. And you're like that light going, hey, look at this GT over here. Hey, look at this Charger over here. Hey, look at that Challenger. Like that's what you're doing. That's who you are. Not only that, you have to give yourself grace and love, man. And I'm a huge, because it's taken me 2 years in sobriety to learn this, because for the longest time, I didn't give myself any credit, nor did I just think I deserved any. But at the end of the day, I have to take care of me before I can take care of anybody else. And I want you to know that you're just as important as everybody on the list you just labeled.
Thank you, and there's millions of more people. I mean, I'm so blessed to have been build so many great relationships over the years that are sure to last a lifetime. But with that, Shannon, I would like to thank you for joining us today on this program.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been a blessing.
We sincerely appreciate everything you have done and continue to do for our great nation and in the military and veteran community. Our country can't thank you enough for your service, your sacrifice, courage, dedication, and bravery. You set an inspiring example for all of us, and it's truly honorable.
I thank you. I appreciate that, Brian. You know what I tell everybody? They ask me what I did. I just tell them I made ice cream. You'd be surprised how many people believe that.
You are the man. And folks, with that, on this final note, go to my guy, Shannon Book. Google him. His music can be found on Spotify, YouTube Music, Pandora, Apple Music, iHeart, and much more. Go to YouTube, Deliberately Broken. You will love the music. If you're a veteran, definitely get over there. Active duty military, definitely get over there. First responder, definitely get over there. And if you're a civilian and everyday guy, go over there, because you will connect with my man, Shannon Book. And until next time, with Tuesdays with Tally, this is Brian Tally. Good night, Semper Fi, and God bless.
Abra.